Joker! Joker! Where are you? Ugh. Joker, what's wrong with you? Ugh. I don't feel so good. Welcome to 5 Points of Articulation, where I review action figures and then articulate 5 points to help you decide if you want to add that figure to your collection. The 5 points I discuss are packaging, presentation, posability, playability, and price. I'm Jason, and if you enjoy my content, please like, share, subscribe, do all the YouTube rigmarole. Today we're taking a look at the DC Multiverse Batman of Earth -22, otherwise known as the Batman Who Laughs. Starting off with the packaging, we've got our tried and true DC Multiverse window box. Pretty sure the real reason he went crazy was trying to read all that. Batman of Earth -22 infected Dark Knight's metal on the side, barcode for those who want it. Side note, I love how it's called the Batman Who Laughs as Batman. Who else would the Batman Who Laughs be? Anyway, legal on the bottom, and a work of art on the back. It's cool and creepy and shows off the glow-in-the-dark feature. Hopefully moving forward we see more of this and less of this. For packaging, I'm giving the Batman Who Laughs as Batman 1 whole point. Moving on to presentation, at the top of his head he stands at just over 7 inches, but to the top of his ears he stands at 7 1/4. Somewhere in the dark multiverse, an alternate version of Batman snaps, killing the Joker. In the process, he's exposed to a toxin that transforms him into his greatest foe. This figure represents the midpoint between regular Batman and the Cenobite-looking monstrosity that he would ultimately become. From the top, and it's genuinely creepy to see Batman with a Joker grin. The cowl has some craggy texture to it, not dissimilar from the Three Jokers Batman. We can see more of that texture on his tattered cape. The tatters, of course, are more toward the bottom. If I had one minor nitpick, I do wish that the neck was black also. That would obviously be a pretty easy custom paint job, of course. Moving on down, and we can see that he's definitely not weak, but he's also not as defined as Batman usually is. Wonderful texture and wrinkles all over the costume. I particularly love this utility belt. It honestly looks a lot like Adam West's. Instead of the normal scallops, he has some yellow straps on his gloves, and those gloves are tipped in very nasty looking points. Moving all the way down, and at a glance his boots look normal. Upon closer inspection, however, you can see at the end in wingtips. This makes them a very nice merge between Batman's boots and the Joker's spats. You'll also notice that this figure benefits from the new style of angle joint. Of course, the number one thing you're likely to notice is the giant day-glow bat symbol. We also see it on the lining of his cape. The question I'm sure you're all wondering is, does it glow in the dark? I'm gonna say no. The truth is, I honestly don't know. I would think so, but I also had it sitting under a 200-watt light bulb for 30 minutes and nothing. Maybe it needs sunlight or a little bit more time. If you've had any luck lighting this up, sound off in the comments. To each his own, but I much prefer this to the regular version of the character. Like, if you were to ask me to picture a combination of Batman and the Joker, this is what I would imagine. Considering how briefly he looked like this in the comics, it's a figure that didn't need to be made, but I'm glad it was. To be honest, I think that this is going to be the official Batman Who Laughs of my collection. For presentation, I'm giving this Batman Who Laughs 1 whole point. Moving on to posability, and his head's on a dumbbell joint. Up this much, this far down, really great tilt, and all the way around. He has swivel hinge shoulders that raise up 90 degrees. Probably could go higher if it wasn't for the cape. Forward and back with a rotator cuff. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and those really great new McFarlane wrist balls that swivel and hinge. Shifting the torso, and the Batman Who Laughs has a diaphragm joint and a dumbbell waist. He can arch back this far, which is pretty good. Unfortunately, he can't really hunch forward. He does, however, get a fair amount of tilt and twist. Below the waist, and he has a typical McFarlane hips. They kick out this far and split this far. Not a whole lot of twist at the hip. He does, however, have double jointed knees, toe articulation, and McFarlane ankle balls that swivel, hinge, and pivot. I do wish that this figure had a little bit more range in his legs, but they're not bad. In fact, the articulation in this figure is pretty good. I particularly appreciate the new McFarlane wrists and ankles. For posability, I'm giving the Batman Who Laughs 1 whole point. Before we continue, if you like this video, do me a favor and give it a like. I put a lot of love into my videos, and your likes really do help more people to see them. Moving on to playability, and the Batman Who Laughs comes with a trading card and a figure stand. Pause here if you want to read it. He also comes with this big hunkin' batarang, which you can hold like so. But playability is more than just accessories, it's also about how well your figure plays with others. In the comic, the first thing the Batman Who Laughs did was kill the other members of the Bat family because they were the ones who'd be able to see what was going on and try to stop him. So here we have a couple of different versions of Damian. The smaller one is Mattel, and the bigger one is DC Multiverse. Here are the two different versions of Tim Drake from my most recent verses. This is Gotham Knights and Red Robin. For his elder sons, here we have Nightwing and Red Hood. These are from DC Essentials. And for a Batgirl comparison, here is Art of the Crime from DC Multiverse. After the Bat family, he killed Superman and the rest of the Justice League. Here we have DC Essentials and Action Comics 1000. Additionally, here we have DC Rebirth and the Solar Suit, and since it's from the same story, here he is with Superman the Infected. For a couple of Hal Jordans, here's DC Essentials and DC Multiverse. If you saw my Tim Drake verses, you'd know I finally got a hold of them. Here's the DC Essentials and DC Multiverse Flash, and here's the CW Flash I reviewed just a couple of videos ago. Here we have the Endless Winter Aquaman, here's Green Arrow from Injustice 2, and then moving on to Wonder Woman, here we have New 52 from DC Collectibles, and Wonder Woman 1984 from DC Multiverse. I chose her because she's the closest thing that we have to a DC Rebirth Wonder Woman. That said, for a couple of others, here's Last Night on Earth and Dark Knight's Death Metal. For some Joker comparisons, and here we have the Three Jokers Criminal. It doesn't quite peg him, but you can get it up there. Since Batman's usually scowling, this does look kinda cool, and honestly the proportions aren't too bad. Just be warned, I did stress the plastic a bit trying to force the peg in. Here we have Mortal Kombat 11. As I've said before, this is my favorite Joker head sculpt, so I do like this a lot. It's a good clean fit, and I think the more realistic look works. And here we have Mike Kip Bash using Death of the Family and the Three Jokers Clown. Just like the Criminal, and this one doesn't peg into place either. Even so, you can squeeze it up there. For an unmasked Batman Who Laughs, I think that this combination works best of all. Leastways, it's the closest to the original head. For a relative scale comparison, here he is with Pizza Spidey and the Spectacular Spider-Man. And as always, here he is with Stealth Iron Man. But I know what you're here for. You want to see some Batman comparisons and head swaps. First up, and here we have DC Essentials. Similar to the Joker heads, and it just kind of sits up there. Scales pretty well though. If you want to make a custom add this, you could probably get away with it. Next up, we've got Detective Comics 1000. The Detective Comics head sits a bit high on the Batman Who Laughs body. It's also pretty gappy. Still, if you were determined to make it work, I'm sure you could find some solution. Conversely, this head on this body looks pretty good. The texture doesn't match, and neither do the colors, but a gifted customizer could probably have a lot of fun with it. Here we have Dark Knight's Death Metal. Obviously they go together. I love this head sculpt, and I'm pretty sure that it could cure a rainy day. If you wanted to try to turn this into a regular Batman using this head, I think you could get away with it, but you will need to do a little something with the peg. On the flip side, this looks really cool. The colors and textures match up perfectly, and it honestly looks one step closer to his ultimate Batman Who Laughs design. Unfortunately, we can't do a head swap with this one because the joints don't match. We also can't do a head swap with this one. For one head we can swap, here's DC Rebirth. The usual criticism for this head is that it's too small. That's definitely the case here, especially when you look at how long the arms are. This, on the other hand, is kind of fun. Sort of looks like another transitional stage. For one of my favorite figures to head swap, here we have Future State. This, of course, is Tim Fox under the cowl. This configuration looks pretty cool. Just imagine this head with a Joker mouth painted over it. As is often the case with the Future State body, I absolutely love this configuration. The head's perfectly proportioned and blends in great. This would be another wonderful transitional stage. And here we have Dark Detective. Personally, I don't think this one works at all. For one thing, I'm just not a fan of this head. For another, it just looks really silly on this body. And to be honest, this doesn't really work either. The main problem, of course, is the flesh tone. If you really wanted to, I suppose you could paint the flesh tone white. If you're going to go through that much trouble, maybe make the coat purple. But honestly, I think this one's better left alone. For one last comic comparison, and here we have Batman of Zur-En-Arrh. This is one that I was particularly interested in, and I like it a lot. Obviously, you'd need to paint the mask, but again, as a transitional Batman Who Laughs, I think there's a lot of potential. This one's a lot of fun too. Again, you'd have to paint the cowl, but hey, it's already mostly Joker colors. And then shifting to live action, and here we have Battinson. I think it goes without saying that this isn't going to work, but this, on the other hand, once again, it blends in perfectly. If you wanted to make a more realistic Batman-Joker combination, this would be a pretty good start. And lastly, here we have Batfleck. Just like with Battinson, this one isn't going to work because of the realistic face, but this is the one that I was a lot more interested in. With a little bit of imagination, you could definitely turn this into a Jokerized version of the Batsuit from Suicide Squad. I'll be honest, when I first saw the solicitation for this figure, I didn't really want it. Now, it's one of my favorite Batman figures this year. On his own, he's already a lot of fun, but throw in some head swaps, and it kicks him up to a whole new level. For playability, I'm giving the Batman Who Laughs 1 whole point. This leaves us with nothing left to discuss but the price. I found the Batman Who Laughs at GameStop where it set me back $19.99. Given that other DC Multiverse figures have gone up to $25 at my GameStop, that was a pretty welcome surprise. For price, I'm giving the Batman Who Laughs 1 whole point for a grand total of 5 out of 5. For more Batman head swap videos, check out this video or check out my entire Joker playlist. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again real soon, but until then, play nice and have fun.